Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffe Kennedy, author of Epic Fantasy Romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Delicious. Today is oh wait, is it? What is today? I don't even know. What's today? It is right. Sorry, I'm like completely combobulated. Say it with me, people. Tell me the truth. It is Friday. Woo, 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 woo. August 2nd. I don't know why I totally blanked on that. I was like, what day of the week is it? What is art? Who am I? Anyway, here we are. Hope you all have had a good week. It's been, busy week for me, eventful in a lot of ways, and uh, making really good progress on revising Reluctant Wizard. And but I want to talk today about jealousy. Let's talk about jealousy. I know that seems like out of the blue, but I did make a note to talk about it. I've seen a number of people uh, commenting about it, talking about professional jealousy. And I think that jealousy is one of those things that arise in many, many facets in human lives. There's both jealousy and envy. In my book, I'm going to look up the definition. So here's an interesting comparison. I usually personally use envy in a more positive way than jealousy, but I think I'm incorrect to do that. Uh, so this is interesting. This comes from the languagetool.org. Although many people consider envy and jealousy synonymous, they actually have distinct meanings. Envy is the painful feeling of wanting what someone else has, like attributes or possessions. If you're jealous, you feel threatened, protective, or fearful of losing one's position or situation to someone else. And I think that it's interesting looking at etymology that envy comes from the Latin invidere. I'm probably not saying that correctly, but which comes out of regard maliciously or to have a grudge. So I think that's a pretty good uh, argument for envy having a very negative connotation. But I think, let's face it, both have negative connotations. I had a friend a long time ago who said that his father always told him, people are more jealous than you know. And I think that there is a lot of truth to that. And I'm going to say flat out, like the conversations I've been seeing on some of the author threads and so forth about professional jealousy. Partly what inspired me to talk about this today is somebody had said that it's very human to feel jealousy, to feel professional jealousy, which I think is absolutely true. Absolutely agree. They said they did not have good remedies for it, any suggestions for dealing with it, as I do, and I will get to that. Um, but I think that it is important to understand that about ourselves, that uh, as with all emotions, I think we would often wish to choose not to feel um, professional jealousy or not to feel envy. And not feeling a thing is just not really an option. We have the option to like stuff it way down deep and pack it in somewhere where we think we're not feeling it, and then it results in all sorts of chronic conditions and might burst out at inopportune moments. Uh, One of the best things I learned, and it's partly a Taoist practice, and I think it's common to other things too, but I learned it through Taoism, is, when you feel an emotion, is to feel it. Like I hear a lot of the therapy people talking these days about, like sitting with your emotions. not trying to deny them or force them away or pretend that there's something that they're not. Instead, we allow ourselves to feel the emotion and let it pass through, let it go on. You don't want to wallow in it. You don't want to hang on to, your pain or your anger or grief or whatever, but also accept that it's there and we are feeling creatures. And I think one really important aspect that I learned from Taoism is that emotion is the fuel. Emotion is what drives us to do things. And so using emotion, allowing that to power us is, that's a monumental thing, right? Passion drives us to create. My friend Kelly Robson is always saying that we need emotions to write. And if our emotions are tied up in other things, then it's very difficult to create. So, so yeah, so going back to, like people are more jealous than I think that it is human nature. We are going to look at the things that other people have and wish we had them. And fundamentally, there's nothing wrong with that. Because again, that's a motivating factor, right? It's like, wow, especially with like professional jealousy. I wish I had written this book. I wish I had won that award. I wish I'd gotten that book deal. I wish I had their amazing audience. I wish that influential TikToker had done a reel on my book. These are all perfectly valid things to say. For you non-writers out there, it's like, I wish I'd gotten that promotion. I wish I lived in that beautiful house. I wish I had that beautiful spouse. I wish my kids weren't that well behaved. All of those things that we go through life feeling. We look at what other people have, and you all know me, like I always go back to, how we're just talking monkeys. It's like it goes back to the bananas. Like who's got the really good bananas, and boy do we wish we had those bananas. So there's nothing wrong with that because it's human nature and it's motivating, right? We want, uh, if we didn't see that beautiful house, we would maybe not have the impetus to work towards having that for ourselves. And maybe you won't get that beautiful house, but you will get a beautiful house, maybe even a better house. You want that book deal. It's like, well, okay, what do I need to do? How can I level up? What's the work I need to put in to become, to do, to be these things that are exciting to me? This is the very positive side of feeling that kind of envy, right? And that's why for me it's always been like not necessarily a negative word, but I think that the malicious quality, that's where we run into trouble, where we want to destroy someone else in some way because of them having the thing that we want. Um, you know, where the monkey wants to beat up another to get that bunch of bananas, right? Or to do things to try to destroy people's professional reputations. That's been a lot of that going on, going out and slandering people, saying things about them, uh, and maybe not always realizing that it comes from jealousy, but just having this intense dislike of someone and being all, I want to take them down. And that's where this whole, like the tall poppy syndrome comes from. For those not familiar, I believe this came up out of like New Zealand originally, but now it's become talked about worldwide, which is the tall poppy syndrome. And I will link to this. I am going to read to you from this website that's called Women of Influence, which is out of Canada. And they say tall poppy syndrome occurs when people are attacked, resented, disliked, criticized, or cut down because of their achievements and or success. The tallest poppy, a study led by Dr. Rumit Bilan, apologies if I mispronounced, reveals the consequences of this silent systemic syndrome and the impact it has on women in the workplace worldwide. The study examines the impact of tall poppy syndrome on the individual and the cost to organizations. Um, and I won't go into the whole thing here, but I'm looking, oh, there's some great graphics. Uh, it says men were reported more likely to undermine women due to their success. Uh, Half of respondents who experienced tall poppy syndrome outside of the workplace said friends were to blame. Uh, yeah, I won't go into the rest of this. Um, yeah, well, here's one where it says when respondents shared their experience at work, only 1 out of 5, 20%, were encouraged to take action. Uh, so it's a thing. It really is a thing where um, people will find ways, because we are very clever monkeys. We don't necessarily have to hit another monkey on the head with a rock to get the bananas, but we can start a whisper campaign against them, or we can do these subtle things to undercut them. And I'm fascinated by that statistic that some of this comes from friends. Um, which, yeah. And I think that probably all of you out there are thinking about instances where that's happened, where someone who was supposedly a friend uh, turned on you and it did something to undercut you for whatever reasons. And it can be so boggling, so, um, you know, a shocking betrayal, right? And you wonder, well, why would they do this? And then that's where I come back to this: people are more jealous than you know. um, so I think that there are like not many ways to combat this. um, there's only so much you can do. That, like, other people are going to do what they're going to do, right? Here, this is very Taoist of me, right? You cannot control what other people do. What you can control is yourself, right? Also very Taoist. Don't try to change the world, change yourself. So here we are to, like, how do you handle it when you are jealous of someone? How do you combat that insidious feeling of envy, right? Because it is a very dark emotion. I think one of the interesting things about the 7 deadly sins, which actually predates biblical use, is that, like, the word sin originally comes from missing the target, shooting an arrow and missing the target. And envy is, of course, one of the 7 deadly sins. And it's not the thing in and of itself that is so deadly to us. It's what it creates in us. It's what it drives us to do. So I've already talked about how envy and jealousy can be motivating emotions, right? They can motivate us to go out and figure out how to get that thing or that person or that achievement that we want. Uh, but the dark side of this is when it motivates you to do bad things, right? When it poisons you, when it poisons your thoughts until you feel like, like all the world is against you, and that people are persecuting you, and that you have to fight to um, you know try to get all of these people who are against you. People, like, the sinfulness is like what you give up that's positive in order to indulge that sin. And I think indulge is a good word, is because it's like indulging in the dark side of this emotion. And, like, when you end up getting into a web of lies, and you're trying to, everything in your life is going towards funneling the dark side of this emotion, kind of like revenge, where it poisons everything. You're no longer trying to be the best person you can be. You're no longer trying to achieve and grow and become better, to self-actualize. Instead, you're focused on this, trying to attack another person. So herein lies the solution, right? And maybe you're thinking about this as I'm talking, but so how do you combat that feeling of envy, of jealousy? Well, there's a couple of ways to do it. One of my mantras, keep your eyes on your own work, right? Don't think about what other people are doing. Comparisons are invidious, another one of my favorite phrases. What other people are doing, are achieving, getting, buying, having, it has nothing to do with you. Nothing. That's Keep your eyes on your own work. Okay, that's a big piece. And I do this because I experience professional jealousy too. Human being. When I see somebody get something that I would have liked to have had, I put my eyes back on my own work. Um, I don't need to be looking at what someone else is doing other than to say, oh, yeah, I would have liked to have that. That's a good goal. Back to my work, back to what I'm doing. The other piece of this is, like back to your own banana hunt. Maybe that should be our tagline. Back to your banana hunt. The other thing you can do is deliberately reverse the flow of the negative emotion. And you do this by being positive to someone else. So, like, if you see somebody get a book deal that you want and you feel that stab of professional jealousy, immediately go to that person's joyful post about it and congratulate them. Share it. Send it out into the world. Tell them how awesome you think it is. Admire their bananas. Uh, you would be amazed at how this works. And this is something that I do very deliberately. And I I love it when people describe me as being generous and supportive, because it's really important to me to be those things. And but I've it's a skill. I guess that's part of why it's important to me, why I love people hearing people say that about me, because um, it's a skill I have deliberately developed, is being supportive of other people. I don't think we're, naturally taught to do that. Um, it is something that you do on purpose. You go out and you find ways to support other people, and that is in part to combat the negative emotions. The more that you can flow out, the more that you can be positive to other people, to give to other people, to lift them up, the better you feel about yourself. Um, and I know it feels like, I don't know, like a John Lennon song lyric, but it's absolutely true. It absolutely works. So those are my two pieces of advice for combating envy, professional jealousy. Deliberately flow out positivity, especially if you can do it to the object of your envy, but it doesn't have to be. It works just as well to do it for someone else, and then put your attention back on your own work. On that note, that's your homework for the weekend, to try those things. And I will talk to you all on Monday. You all take care. Bye bye.